Hey friends and viewers, good afternoon from Sydney. Nick Hacko here, and today I have Josh and Andrew for a quick chat about what's going on in our world under times which are best described as uncertain, right? Times are not normal, Andrew, aren't they?
No, not at all. I mean, coming from the workshop, things are normal business as usual, I suppose, at the moment. Lots of work in, which is really good. Some stuff which we'll be having a look at later in this live chat. But otherwise, yeah, as far as we're concerned in here, it's busy and yeah, work as usual. Work
as usual. And Josh, there is a rumor that you have been kidnapped by Swiss. Is that true, or what happened the other day? You just disappeared.
I was streaming off my phone, and my phone decided to give up. And right at the worst moment as well, I see that Mark is asking how much the ransom fee was for my return from the Swiss. Well, luckily we didn't have to pay anything. It was just my phone. So, yeah, good to see you, Mark.
Right here. But before we go any further, let me see if I can get this share thing going. I'm not sure. Josh, I don't want to waste time. Maybe we should go straight downstairs and you can show viewers what are you working on as we speak.
Okay, I'll just head downstairs. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to turn my microphone and camera off for 1 second.
Yeah, all right. Andrew.
Yes.
Let me see if I can play something from our previous conversation that we had the other day. Right. Okay, it's loading. Okay, bear with me. It won't take long.
No worries.
Bear with me. It won't take long. It's a little bit hectic here today, isn't it? And it looks like we're not organized that well for presentation, but quite a few things to talk about. Okay, Andrew, you take it. I'm trying to load this drive.
Yep.
Tell us what you're doing right now.
So right now we are deep in a few repairs. There was a bit of a backlog, obviously, with the lockdowns and not being able to come in, but we're sort of churning through all of those and getting them as ready as possible for when people are actually allowed to come and pick them up. Still going through, today I was actually working on an IWC chronograph, the Yachtmaster, which I will look at in a little bit more depth later. We've also had an unfortunate Rolex Submariner story, which we'll talk about. And yeah, there's just a heap of repairs, lots of learning, lots of new calibers that we've seen, which is good. And yeah.
All right. Well, we covered that in detail. Josh, you said that you're a little bit in a hurry. So let's start with you. Show us what's going on.
So for the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've been working, or really continuing work on the NH3 dial. So we've had designs kicking around for this dial and I looked at the dates yesterday. I was really interested from the last stream, but we had designs dating back more than 2 years for this dial. And today we made some significant progress, and we, long story short, we made something that I think everyone is going to be excited by, but we're really excited to show everyone. So this isn't an official unveiling, but we've got some maybe progress or in progress photos, and I can show you guys in real time some of the in progress stuff of this dial. So a lot of the things are subject to change, and especially in terms of the quality, the finishing always has room to improve. So what I'll show you is a quick tour of downstairs, which is the workshop area. So you can see behind me, we've got the, oh, here we go, yep. We've got our current milling machine and our work area here where we do all programming and all of the sort of tool setting. And then over here, we've got our manual lathe, which is made by Shoblin, the Shoblin 102. I'll sort of wobble behind. Yeah. And like all good workshops, when they're being used, they're a bit dirty, so forgive the dirtiness. And on this side, we've got our milling machine, and our inspection bench is here. So this is where we do all of our measurements, our inspection, our quality control. And we've got some microscopes and other inspection equipment littered around our factory. But today was all about, in fact, the last 3 weeks have all been about the kern, the dial components that have been coming off the kern. So what I might do is I might try to rotate the camera around. Give me a second. That's me. There we go. Okay. So this is quite a zoomed out view, but this is our sort of in progress workbench of our dial station. So this is a dial blank, and let me try to zoom in a bit more. There we go. This is a dial blank. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we
yes?
can see that.
Great. So this dial blank here, you can see on this side, we've got the feet of the dial. So that's how we hold onto the dial in the movement. That's been milled from one single piece of titanium. So this is a titanium disc that we make these pins from and the dial face from. So everything that happens on this side, if we can get it to focus just a bit, everything that happens on this side is like a blank canvas. And on this blank canvas, we've been making lots of attempts, and there's always some things that are wrong with these prototype dials. But today, I think we've made some really cool progress, and this is the grand reveal of the in-progress dial. So what's really exciting about this is what's happening in the center. This is what we call guilloche or guillochage, and it's a decorative pattern that is reserved only for the highest end watches. It takes a really long time to make, and it's a very finicky process. All those patterns that you see there are each done individually, line by line. They're scribed in, and so we did that here in Brookvale, which is a massive, massive achievement for us, because generally you would have to rely on a Swiss master who's perfected the art of guilloche to do something like this on your dial. And there's many, many companies in Switzerland that just focus on doing guilloche. So for us to be able to do it in-house in Brookvale on our own dime is massive, because we can then experiment with all different types of guilloche. And so these are all different patterns, and some look quite familiar. I'm sure if you've seen any Vacheron or Patek dials, you'll be familiar with these patterns. So what we're currently doing, and we have been doing for the past 2 days now, is experimenting, and then today transferring all that knowledge onto this titanium dial. So what this will turn into is anyone's guess, but currently we're just waiting for some of the glue to sort of, or dust, the proverbial dust to settle, but the glue to dissolve around this dial so we can take it off this pallet, off this fixture, and then we'll be putting our numerals in. So if you've been following us on Instagram, you would have seen the numerals. Now this is going to be very difficult to sort of photograph, but in this container, you can just barely make out a 3 and a 2 and some batons and a 1 and a 2, 1 and a 9, sorry. But all those little parts in this glass container are the indices, the applied indices. So not only did we put guilloche on this dial, which is a massive challenge, but we're doing one step more than that, which is applied indices. And all of those indices are going to be hand finished when they get put on this dial. So really, we're shooting for the sky. We're trying to achieve something that is next to impossible in Switzerland, let alone in Australia. So that's a quick update from the workshop. I'll pass it over to you guys.
Well, that is exciting, Josh, for sure. But can you tell us, please, a little bit more? I see you holding that dial holder. That's something that also we make in-house ourselves. So not just the titanium dial, but the dial holder itself. Tools. Yeah.
That's right. So this is something that fits into the machine. So this holder or pallet or fixture goes inside the machine and allows us to hold all of our individual watch parts, take them out of the machine to inspect them, to check them, to do secondary, tertiary, and so on operations on them, and then put them back into the machine without losing any accuracy. So we're maintaining a level of precision that's demanded by watchmaking, especially with these decorative patterns. Our eyes, we can very comfortably pick up an error of just a couple of microns in a decorative pattern. The way the light plays with something that's even a couple of microns off makes things look wrong. And it's not something that's easy to measure with a microscope or a ruler or a high precision ruler like a micrometer, but it's very discernible with our eyes. So we need these fixtures, we need these jigs, pallets, whatever you want to call them, to achieve the level of accuracy that is demanded by not only watch dials, but watch components for functional reasons, but aesthetic reasons as well.
Can you take us back to the workstation and show us how the dial looks like in the CAD software? And then
yeah,
maybe
sure. I'll just flip the camera around. Just give me a second. Okay, how about that? You guys can see that?
Not really, but let's see if we can get this closer.
Okay, so
the dial starts with design, right? So you're designing the dial in a software, and you're creating outlines.
The dial, yes, the dial has to exist in a three-dimensional drawing before it can exist anywhere else in reality. So you can see here, this is prototype 12 of the dial, and this is our goal. And over here, you'll see the indices pop up. Get rid of that hand. All of this has to exist in three-dimensional space, and that's how we program the machine off of these three-dimensional models. So all of the tools and how they move in this space, they all get programmed on this computer and then sent off into the machine. And the machine then uses small end mills and small cutting tools like, we use a lot of drills and thread mills and planing tools to generate all of these surfaces. And you can see here those pins that I was just talking about. Maybe not that clearly actually, but you can just see them sticking up from the underside. And so one dial like this, so far in the prototype method that we're using, it takes about 4 discrete operations to make it. So that's going in and out of the machine. And each operation might have something like 20 sub-operations within it. So tool doing this area, and then this area, then this area here. So we're talking in excess of 100 operations, all things tallied, before we can even get to hand finishing. So that's polishing and graining and doing the circular graining, the guillochage, and so on. So it's really something quite technical and complex for us to undertake as a small independent watchmaker, but we're determined, at least.
Can you show
and that
us?
might get us far enough.
Can you show us a cam tool path, for example, for the guilloche section? What is really going on?
So this is all these yellow lines are the tool paths for the guilloche. Those yellow lines, and you can just see here the blue lines as well, are what the guilloche tool path looks like. If I just do that and then get rid of everything else, this mess of lines and retract points and retract planes all defines that pattern that we just saw on the Toemaster style. So something like this, for example, is we need to draw it first before we can actually send it to the machine and make it. So the drawing part is the imaginative process. That's the part where we have to use our creativity and our sort of curiosity more than anything else to test and retest and cut and recut and get a pattern that looks as beautiful as this one.
Cool. And what happens, and how often does it happen that something goes wrong during the dial making process? Like, what if the height of a tool part is not right, or what if the tool breaks? Or tell us how often does that happen?
Yeah, so as you can see, all of these blanks here, they're scrap. They're not kosher for one reason or another, and the error margin is very, very small. So if your machine is not dialed in, or your tool paths are not dialed in, a mistake of even 10 microns in a height between two planes can alert your eye that there's something wrong. It just might not look right. And that's extremely difficult to show. These, I can't zoom in far enough to even see that on a camera like this, but under the scrutiny of a loupe, we want our watch to be completely sort of blameless. We don't want to worry that something's just going to pop up in someone's loupe. So our tolerance and requirements for surface finish and dimensional accuracy are really, really tight. One example is, if I can just come in here a little bit like that, and I'm going to take a pointer into the screwdriver, but I'm going to try my best not to touch it. But you can see this little recess here with the two holes. That's where a name tag is going to go, and that name tag is going to have our brand name on it, Nicholas Hacker Watchmaker. The pocket that is cut here has some really, really sharp corners. You can just sort of pick them out. And for us to be able to cut a sharp corner like that with a rotational tool, you need an extremely small end mill. The end mill is the size of 3 human hairs stacked upon each other, so it's 0.3 millimeters. And that end mill comes in and sort of picks away at those corners. So the problem with using a small cutter like that is that they're extremely fragile. Something that's made out of a material that's twice as brittle as porcelain plate and is 0.3 millimeters in diameter and about 1 millimeter long, comes in and rotates at 40,000 RPM and picks away at those corners. If you've got even one thing wrong in the tool height or where that tool path is telling the tool to go, that tool will just break. It'll snap. And it's not a cheap tool either. It's about 100 Australian dollars to get that into our workshop from Switzerland. So we have to be very aware of what is happening in these really small tool diameters. things like temperature become a massive concern. You have to let the spindle warm up. The rotational tool has to warm up, because if it doesn't, the compensation that we take into account for the thermal growth of the whole machine and the spindle and the tool can play a very large impact. So we try to make things not go wrong. We're very careful, but I would say that we've gone through maybe more than 20 of these dials to get to this point, and finally we can see the light at the end of the tunnel with this prototype. So this is really the culmination of 2 years of work, but maybe spread out over 2 or 3 week intense sessions, and then we have to focus on something else. So we're extremely proud from the workshop to be able to show you guys this.
And another thing is, we make this dial with the guilloche or guilloche pattern in titanium. That's not what Swiss do. Swiss made their dials in brass, which is a completely different material altogether. It's a soft. It's much easier to cut. Tools are much cheaper. So why are we making dial in titanium and not the Swiss way in easy to work in material like brass or gold?
Well, one thing with brass is that it's limited in its aesthetic and visual appearance by how well you can galvanically treat it, how well you can plate it. Gold plating and rhodium plating and ruthenium plating and all those sort of aesthetic finishes. Now, currently we're quite good at gold plating, but you don't see too many dials that are gold, and there's good reasons for that, but good aesthetic reasons for that. But with titanium, we're self-proclaimed as sort of humbly as possible, but we're self-proclaimed experts in titanium anodization. So we can now anodize that dial that I showed you to any color that we want within the titanium anodization spectrum. So that's those purples and blues that we are so familiar seeing in the Timascus range. We can actually anodize our dial those colors. Those numerals that I showed you, that 3 and the 2 and the 1, they are all titanium as well. So we can anodize those. The other thing with titanium is that it's once anodized especially, but even in its raw state, it's extremely corrosion resistant. So we're very confident that the dial that we make today is going to look exactly the same in 20 years time or in 50 years time. There's not going to be rust or any sort of corrosion under gold plating. And if you're a vintage watch connoisseur, you'll know as soon as you see like an Omega Seamaster from the 60s, you'll see corroded hands and you'll see tarnish under the gold plating. And that's because brass, over time, especially when exposed to UV and moisture, will develop those blemishes. But with titanium, we'll be pretty confident that in 50 years, it'll remain the same.
Okay, very good. Well, this is definitely exciting. And one thing that is of my concern is if we well, number one, we have to make this clear that right now, as we speak, we don't have still a definite plan if that dial is going to go on a NH3 movement or not. We hope it will. We're happy with what it got so far, but we're still cautious and we're waiting to see the final results after anodizing. I mean, the worst case scenario is we might end up just postponing this and say, hey, we're not happy with this. Allow us another 6 months or 12 months, and then we will have a dial for you. So we call ourselves students of horology. We are happy to take our time, and we're not going to rush madly into anything. But yeah, we're very excited that we came so far. Is there anything else you want to say, or should we let you go?
I'll be in the chat. I'll still answer all your questions in the chat from the NHW Workshop account. So if you've got any questions, I'll attempt to answer them in the chat below in YouTube.
Okay, we do apologize for the rather poor quality of this video, but hey, we have good videos as well. This is just a live chat, and it's a news update, so to speak. Thank you, Josh. Andrew, let's go back to what we originally planned to talk about today,
Yes.
and that is what's going on in your life
Mhm.
in a city. I'm not sure if this sharing is on or not. It might be on. So let's start with this little thingy that happened yesterday.
It's called STXD002. This is Seiko GPS Solar Astron Ladies, right? It's got a mother of pearl shell dial with diamonds. And Andrew, I did ask you to do your research and find out what is the current case size for the Ladies Astron. Have you had the time to check that out? Or are we going to embarrass ourselves in front of a audience not knowing what is the case diameter of that watch?
I'm fairly certain this one is 36 millimeters.
You reckon it's 36?
36.
Did you do research or just guessing here?
I did a little bit of research on this one, and there were some other models that they had that were similar, slightly different cases, but 36 is what I found.
Oh, well done. Thank you very much for that. You managed to impress me here a lot.
Well, there you go, Andrew. That was what we talked about yesterday. We said that the STXD002 is 36 mil case Astron, and looks like both of us were wrong. The correct size is what?
Not correct, unfortunately. The research that I did was unfortunately for a completely different watch. It had absolutely nothing to do with Astron. But the correct case size is 39.8 millimeters for the Seiko Ladies GPS Astron.
Well, there you go. We are humans, and we do make mistakes. And this was, I take 50% responsibility for this one, Andrew.
Well, the good thing is that watch is not currently in stock at the moment. So if anyone was looking to get one, we wouldn't have been able to supply the wrong size anyway.
You know what was funny? That while we were online and talking about Astron, our sales representative from Seiko called in live, spoke to Gemma and said, no, it's not 36. He was trying to correct us for the size, but even he himself got it wrong. What was it, Gemma? He said 38.8. And there you go. But the bottom line is, as we said the other day, Astron is an amazing technology, and Seiko's ability to shrink watch to 39.8 mil is still very, very impressive. So, as they say, watch this space. I mean, I'm sure there will be more news coming from Seiko about the next generation of Astrons. Hey, do you know, does this look familiar to you?
It does, but its story originates before my time, I think. From what I've been told by yourself and others, this is a lovely French carriage clock that has been in the shop for at least my time here, which is 3.5 years. I think you said 5 years. But for that whole time, it has not had a dial. And now the unfortunate thing with when it comes to especially antique clocks, carriage clocks like this, is you obviously cannot order a new dial, and that is a marriage that has been ripped apart. So yeah, that's the interesting case with this particular carriage clock.
Well, I decided to talk about this one briefly because there is a subscriber in the newsletter, Doug Walker, Mr. Doug Walker, who follows us closely, and he's fully aware. He's been fully aware of missing dial for a number of years, and every time he comes in, he said, "Hey, when are you going to find that dial?" And unfortunately, we look hard. At one point of time, we offer $100 reward to anyone who can find that dial. I knew it was in a workshop. how the dial left the clock or was purely my stupidity. We had a presentation here in a workshop about complicated complex clocks, and I wanted to show visitors how the repeat mechanism, repeater, looks like behind the dial. And I disassembled clock, took the dial and hands off, with the intention that first thing next day, following morning, I will assemble it and put it back on a display. It's my clock, right? And I could hear, while I was pulling the clock apart, I could hear that voice saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. What if something happens to that dial? It's about 150 years, maybe 140 years old clock. But I ignored that voice of reason, and I took the dial off, had a clock on a display for night. And of course, next morning got busy. I'll do it tomorrow. And then dial and hands disappeared. Until the other day when Tanya was cleaning a mess in a workshop, and look what she found. On the top of that rubbish bin is bag containing dial, enamel dial, and hands. And I cannot tell you how lucky and happy I was about that discovery. And here it is. That moment I said, I'll pause everything and I'm going to put this clock together so it will remain completed for forever. So there you go. I think every watchmaker's nightmare is, who's going to assemble all those watches if I drop dead tonight? Do we have a, it's a scary thought, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting, and we were even talking about this last live chat in regards to the Breguet pocket watch that sits on the clock. The two things on their own are both interesting and worth something, but both of them together are worth infinitely more than each individual component on its own. So that clock, whilst it was very, very cool in repeater mechanism, and just the history in that clock is amazing, but without the dial, it is worth infinitely less than now that the marriage has been brought back together. So thank you very much to Tanya for finding.
Yeah, I'm yet to give her $100 reward, but I will. I promise I will. It would be worth it. You can see in the background there a mug. People are idiots, and I often nominate individuals and businesses, but I think I should self-nominate myself for this effort. I am an idiot for taking a dial off, not for taking a dial off, for not putting it back immediately. Anyway, another annoying job is this bracelet. Do you remember this one? Well, of course you remember. This just happened the other day, but can you tell us more about a bracelet, another repair job from your domain?
Yeah, so this particular one is just a lady's Rolex Datejust that had come in for a service and an overhaul, on top of the fact that it had an issue with the bracelet. So what had happened is, and this is usually the case we find with especially ladies' Rolex bracelets, there is considerable wear in the end link. So what you can see here, that end link is not supposed to be detached. That is supposed to be connected to the rest of the bracelet, and it's supposed to be permanently connected. You can't actually remove it. So on this particular one, it was broken, and we had to find a way to fix it.
Yeah, and we decided to do it our way because, of course, we can't get any spare parts from Rolex. Rolex will not supply spare parts, so we decided to engineer the what I call dead bolt. It's two pieces of stainless steel turned to an outside and inside diameter, drilled inside, and then spring loaded. So when you squeeze the ends in, the end link locks into the bracelet. Now, the challenge is you only have one go at it because it's a dead bolt. You can't take it, you can't pull it apart. once locks in, it stays in permanently. So if the diameter is not right, then it's a little bit loose, or if it's too long, too short, it won't fit. But the bottom line is you have one go. But the beauty of having a good workshop was in effect that I draw this how I kind of thought it's going to look like. I supply a spring to James in Brookwell, and James did his magic. So these are two dead bolts for the Rolex bracelet that he machined himself. As you can see, they're 4 pieces, 2 springs, and each piece is different in diameter and length because he took into account wear and tear in both link and the bracelet. So they're not interchangeable anymore. I had to adjust one of them for fit, but once we fit them in, that's the end result. The repair is invisible from outside. It's not a matter of, you can't drill externally. It's a dead bolt. I'm happy we got this one out of the way, but are we going to do another one anytime soon?
Probably not. Hopefully not.
Yeah, it was a massive job. It actually took us, how long it took us to get this from drawing to completion?
Well, yeah, very, very labor intensive. This took 3 people, essentially 2 full business days to go from broken bracelet to a fixed bracelet. Which, I should say, in the grand scheme of things, compared to a 6 to 8 month wait time at a Rolex service center, I'm not even sure how much it would cost, but I think that was actually pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, well, again, we're glad we don't do many modern Rolex watches, but we prefer vintage restoration projects. But this is one of those things where we just had to help customer cut our losses and move on. But again, full credit goes to James and his fantastic manual lathe work. So this was all done on manual lathe Shoblin. Hey, do you remember this one? This is another recent job.
Yes, this is a slightly more sad story, unfortunately. So previous to what you can see here, this watch came in with crystal in fine condition, just for a standard sort of service and overhaul, relubrication. And that was done, and we watched it and checked it, and eventually it made its way back to the customer, and they were happy with it for about 2 weeks until, as the story goes, the watch was left on the bedside table. Child has gone in, had a look, decided they were unhappy with Rolex as a business, and dropped the watch on the floor. And what we can see here is the result of that. So the customers had to come back in. He's shown us the watch. We thought, oh, maybe something, have we done something wrong? Is it not keeping time? He said, no, it's perfect. It's been dropped, and what do I have to do now, sort of thing. So unfortunately, we had to re-overhaul the entire watch, basically do everything again as what we did 2 weeks prior. But it has since been, the issue has since been rectified, and it is now in the safe hands of the owner once again.
Yeah, so this is not uncommon. It happens all the time. People dropping their watches, crystal shatters, and common understanding, a customer's expectation is that, okay, broken crystal, remove the broken crystal, dust off particles, put a new crystal on, done. I had cases where customer kind of expected us to do this, while you wait. Unfortunately, that is not possible. Why we can't just replace a crystal, Andrew?
Well, that's correct. It's absolutely not possible. So if you go back to the previous photo there of one of the dials. So what we can see here is that dial, the outside ring of the dial is pressed up against like a ledge inside the case. So there's no room for any crystal particles to really go through that way. The crystal particles make their way into the dial and into the movement, quite literally just through the center stack. Just underneath the hour hand is a little bit of a gap, and also the date window. And what we can see here, even though the watch was brought in within, I think maybe 2 or 3 days of it being dropped, those little particles of the crystal, of the sapphire crystal, have gone all the way through the movement. You can see at least, 4 or 5 pieces in every single photo, and that's only through those tiny little gaps. So the issue is, once those particles make their way into the movement, they tend to get stuck in the lubrication where the wheel pivots are in the bearing, and then that sapphire crystal, being very hard and very sharp, eventually gets ground into a paste as the wheels turn, and it erodes away the actual axle of the wheel that's sitting in the bearing. On top of that, it can get in between teeth. It can stop the movement completely. There's a million and one problems that arises from just, as simple as sort of dropping your watch. So these can't be dusted out, unfortunately. The watch has to be completely disassembled, every single part cleaned, re-lubricated, reassembled, and then the crystal is put on last so we can align the cyclops with the date window.
Yeah, it's annoying that in this particular case, we overhauled the watch 2 weeks prior to this, and unfortunately we had to charge customer twice for this, but hey, that's life. This is the watch that you have on your workbench right now as we speak. Tell us more about this repair.
Yeah, so this one is an IWC Yacht Master. So it's a chronograph. It has the running seconds that you can see down the bottom, just where it says Yacht Club. It also has a minute and hour indication, obviously. Sweep seconds hand for the chronograph, which you can see in red in the center. That's the chronograph seconds counter. And then in the 12 o'clock subdial, it has both the minute and the hour counters for the chronograph on the same subdial, which is quite cool. Usually you'll see on a Speedmaster or say a Navitimer, the hour counter will be one subdial, the minute will be another. So that's, very cool. Now, this, we couldn't find how many parts were in this particular one, and I sort of stopped counting after 100. But this is probably one of the most complex chronographs that I've ever seen. And it really puts into perspective, the other watches that you work on, how simple they are sometimes. So this caliber 89361 IWC, they have a base caliber, but this one is used in the Yacht Master. And learning a lot from it. And I think we remember from that last chat, the stuff that we see in repairs. We were talking about the importance of repairs and how that affects every other aspect of the business. There's things that you see in, a caliber like this that's been so well designed and from such a large watchmaking house as IWC. Just how things are done, and even if you've kind of thought about that solution before, actually seeing it being done in a watch is very reassuring, and that's interesting. They've done it this way, they've moved this over here. So that's why repairs, especially for us as a manufacturer of watches and a designer of watches, is very, very important.
Well, I always think of one obvious thing, and that is sometimes young aspiring watchmakers who are still apprentices, they think, if I only had a chance to go to Switzerland and work for one of those big brands, I would love to do that. And I say, well, fantastic, yeah, by all means, go there. But even a caliber like this, you will have to be prepared to spend practically the rest of your life working on just another and IWC after another IWC after another IWC. There'll be very little variety in that. You'll be very, very good. How long do you think it will take you to complete this job?
This particular one will take definitely longer than usual, for a few reasons. Because this is the first iteration of this caliber that I've seen. There's lots of photos and that have to be taken to make sure everything's taken off correctly. The reason for that is, like spare parts, these brands don't supply technical guides. So when you're servicing a movement like this, at least for the first time, or maybe the first few times, you are quite literally doing it blind because you have no idea what's underneath. You have no idea what challenges, what booby traps you might face. And there are a lot of booby traps in this particular watch. So generally, I mean, for a Speedmaster, which is our sort of bread and butter, we do them all the time. We could probably, disassemble one in, say, under 20 minutes. But for this particular chronograph, and there aren't that many more components, the style is very different, but there aren't really that many more components. I think the disassembly for that, with taking all the photos and, really understanding how each part interacts with its neighbor, took from 9 till 12:30. So it was a very long job, and I will definitely be doing that for the best part of tomorrow, reassembling it. It is clean now, fortunately, but reassembly will be, and lubrication will be the best part of tomorrow for this particular one.
Well, I say don't rush into it, and certainly, if you lose any of those parts, we will be in trouble.
We're in trouble.
But we are, in a way, risk takers, and I don't think there is any other way to learn watchmaking, but in your own pace and take a risk. What I wanted to say before is, if you're in Switzerland working for IWC, you can overhaul this maybe in 3 or 4 hours, watch like this, because that's the only thing you do. But that's it. It will be day after day, same caliber. And you certainly wouldn't be working on 140 years old French clocks, and you certainly wouldn't be turning dead bolts for Rolex bracelets or replacing, Rolex crystals. So it's that variety that I enjoy myself, and that's what we can offer here. Hey, a couple of more photos of Josh's test pieces. I don't know if anyone can see this, but the one in the middle says there's an inscription on it, Test 03. And Josh, I mean, we're proud of you, but this is not bad for Test 03 piece. All these, I mean, a photo of guilloche or guilloche cannot really describe the beauty of the three-dimensional pattern. It's just amazing how light reflects of this, and these are all different attempts to create a pattern in a unique way. I don't think any of those. Well, the straight one is common, but what did he call those wavy ones? He did say something yesterday about waves breaking.
DY, not DY, curl. He said they look like waves crashing on Curl Beach. So we had the opera waves of the NH1 on the bridge, and now we have the curl waves possibly on the dial of the NH3.
Yeah, I don't know. People who are going to watch this, they say, they're just bragging endlessly about made in Australia, manufactured in Australia, but it is what it is. I mean, we have to be honest. We just so far away from epicenters of horology, and the fact that we are playing with this, and it's an achievement in itself. So, for all those viewers who are sometimes very harsh on us, please have a mercy. Understand that what we're trying to do is not easy. It will take a long time. It will take a long time to learn and be really good at it. But we will get there. I believe that Australian kids are very smart, and if given an opportunity, they will take it to next level. There's no question about it. We're about to go, but we still have a Michael. I'll invite Michael to join us.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Michael, how are you doing? You're working from home.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've been trapped in the pocket of Sydney, which is kind of the COVID hotspot. So we've been, walled up. We're not allowed to interact with everyone else. We're in the naughty corner. So yeah, I'm stuck at home at the moment. So this is my office. So I've a little makeshift office here. And yeah, past few days, because it started this week, I've had the opportunity to be able to work on the camera blog. So our newest venture, which is vintage cameras, vintagecamera.com.au. That's where all my effort's been going to recently and this week. So it hasn't been too bad being stuck at home, being able to work on that.
So what exactly is the arrangement? What is your role? What is your job?
So my job is not only to kind of find the best cameras available to kind of put on our website and to talk about, but also talk about them. So bring all the interesting stories and all the all the technical information, all the how the cameras came to be, all those sort of stories into a newsletter, and also on our Instagram, to kind of show people, maybe people who have seen that film cameras are coming back in, who might be like, oh yeah, kind of that's kind of cool thing. Kind of show them the world that is coming to light again through a lot of the younger generation, myself included, getting their hands on all this kind of old tech, and giving it a go again, kind of thing. And so our main goal and my kind of role is to find these really cool cameras and make them available for people through our newsletter.
Oh, very good. Well, so far I think we're doing fine. There are, how many subscribers we have on a camera newsletter? I think close.
Over 300 now. And yeah, we're getting a lot of positive feedback from people. Yeah, a lot of people kind of appreciate the effort we're going into to not just display the cameras. It's easy to take a photo of a camera and put it online, but to go to the effort to actually talk about the camera and introduce it, because there is some really interesting stories behind this stuff.
And I think attraction for me also, for that magic coming from a mechanical vintage camera, which is like a watch build designed to last for a long time, but which is really a miracle of mechanical engineering, like a watch. I mean, when you pull apart a camera like this, you see the same thing you see in a watch: cogs and springs and gears and plus lenses and optics, and it's a tool that you can capture most precious moments in your life or someone else's life. It's an artistic expression tool. So when we combine all that together, attraction is obvious, but we also like to preserve those cameras for next generation, because cameras are disappearing fast, right? Good ones are like good watches.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think there is room for us in Australia, particularly. It is a bigger thing overseas for people to kind of collect these sort of cameras. There is definitely a large amount of people here, but it's not necessarily as accessible for us here in Australia, being an island colony kind of thing. So that's our main goal, to just make it accessible to people and make it easy for people to get their hands on this cool stuff.
Very good. Well, thank you for your effort. So my understanding is you do 2 newsletters, Monday and Thursday newsletters.
Yeah.
We're going to put a link in this video, as someone would say. I'm not sure where it goes, but yeah, we will we'll put a link to vintagecamera.com.au newsletter, and we will invite people who watch this video to subscribe to newsletter, because I like what you do there, and I think this is really we're fortunate that we can create again an environment for sophisticated products to be available to Australians, and I'm certainly having a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Hey, I can't believe it's like almost an hour since we started. Again, we went way over playing time. If you guys like this and you want to see more live, yes, Andrew, you have something to say?
I should say we should at least answer one question, I think, from Alexei before we go, just because I don't think I've ever asked you this question, and we should probably sort of each answer as watchmakers. But the question was, what is your favorite watch to work on as a watchmaker? So maybe you go first.
What is sorry, can you repeat the question? What is the favorite?
Yeah, what is your favorite watch to work on as a watchmaker?
Wow, that's a tough one. I like simplicity. I'll say I like 6497 or 6498. I like simplicity. Why complicated and complex when simple will do? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough question. I never had that luxury to go through repair job box. You know, if you work for a big company, yeah, you have that luxury, right? Imagine this. There's 5 watchmakers, for example. You're working for a big brand, and there's 300 watches there, and you can go through those repair jobs and say, oh, I'm going to work on this one, and I'm going to fix this one, and yeah, and there's plenty of spare parts, and all I need to do is to pull that drawer, and you're still picking your favorite caliber and your favorite, watch. I never had that luxury in my life. I would work on anything that comes in that I'm confident that I can do a good job. It's like I'm like that pit bull terrier. I'll chase any car, right? So for a small independent watchmaker, that's a tough question. I don't know. I never had the luxury of picking my favorite watch to work on. But what about you, Andrew? Do you have that privilege yourself?
Fortunately, I do. It must be a very different story working for an independent watchmaker rather than being one yourself. But I would have to agree that simplicity is nice. So when you have a movement, say, for example, like your Speedmaster 861, which is probably the easiest chronograph to overhaul in terms of just how well and condensed down it has been made. And you could probably link that also to almost any Rolex caliber, like just a Rolex Submariner or GMT. The movements are so sort of well made with the fewest parts possible that you can just breathe easy knowing that you're not going to have to face any booby traps or any strange mechanisms where you think, why have they done it that way? But I think for me personally, I thrive most in that sort of environment where the watches are complicated or they have very interesting ways of doing things, even if it's not the most simple. So like this IWC today, for example, I'm absolutely reveling in this movement because it's so complex and there's so many kind of quirks and booby traps and so many points for understanding. So I think for me, because it's the most mentally challenging to work on a movement like that they would have to be my favorite, those sorts of movements. What about you, Michael?
Probably 750. I kind of like the challenge and complexity of it. I like that, once you get into it, it's a long journey to get back to the end. So yeah,
I think you like the fact that we do have all the spare parts for 750 still.
Definitely.
Plenty of them in stock.
Pressure away.
Yeah, it just that takes the pressure off you, knowing that if something goes wrong, you can fix it. A final request. I believe there's still people watching this live stream. Please leave your comment. Are we meeting your expectations or not? I really want an honest answer. Like, are we wasting your time? end our time, or you liking this. Like, we have to make decisions in the future how we're going to, conduct ourselves and present ourselves. If you think that there is no benefit, or you're not really learning anything, or you're not even entertained at all, then please, you're not going to break my heart. I'm a second-hand dealer after all. But do leave your feedback. Let us know if this is working for you or not. Bobby knows that, Michael knows that it is very easy to record a video of something that can go on and get 500,000, 1 million, 3.5 million views. We've been there, right? And we talk about this. Are we going to continue to do videos, restoration videos that are massively popular, or should we engage sometimes with our followers and just show them who we are and what we stand for? I think both is important, but again, we don't want to waste your time. So do feel free to leave feedback. That's it for today. I have nothing else to add to this. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you to Michael and Andrew, and for Josh, who is busy with his own thing. And I can only say that I hope that things will go back to normal. Will come back to normal sooner rather than later. And if you feel a little bit bored and down, and that's all normal under abnormal circumstances, we'll get there. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.